Welcome to the Even Better podcast, where your host, Sinikka Waugh of Your Clear Next Step, brings you exciting content about making communities better by helping people get even better at work.
Today's episode is brought to you by Your Clear Next Step in the Changemaker Certification Program.
Would you like to save time by solving the right problem sooner with a realistic and measurable plan? Reduce overwhelm by finding more sustainably productive ways to work? Improve employee morale by creating more positive workdays from within? Stay competitive by tightening your turn or increasing your agility in adapting to changing customer demands? If you said yes to those things, then we have the solution for you.
Interested in becoming a changemaker? Give us a call at 515-442-0545.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of the Even Better podcast. This is Sinikka Waugh, and I'm so delighted to welcome you back. Thanks for sharing a few minutes of your time with us. We are here as part of our ongoing mission to help you have an even better day so that together we can co-create better communities. I am delighted to welcome for the first time, but hopefully not the last time, our guest today, Carrie Copley. Carrie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This is such a delight. So for those of you who don't know Carrie, it is time to get to know Carrie. I have been delighted I met Carrie at one of here in Central Iowa, we have Intentional Connections, which is a wonderful women's networking event. And I had the pleasure of meeting Carrie at one of those and instantly knew that this was someone that I wanted to spend more time with and I wanted to know at a deeper level. And I was right. And I was so delighted to get to spend a little bit more time with Carrie in another conversation. And she agreed to come on the Even Better podcast. And I'm so glad she did, because we have some great stuff to talk with you about. So as let me just tell you a little bit about what I know about Carrie, and she can tell you more. But among the things that I picked up about Carrie is that she is not afraid to speak her truth. She lives what she says she is going to do. She says what she says, and she lives what she lives and lives what she says, right? She's one of these people who walks the walk and talks the talk. It's so beautiful. And as I had these conversations with her, I was talking about her own journey, and she'll tell you more about this, but she's got a background in coaching, and she's got a background in sociology, and she's got a background in understanding how people come together. And then she put this into a career of helping people and serving people, and then living in a way that in her own journey, as she'll talk about it, maybe wasn't doing the best thing that she could do for herself. And now she's doing great things and is living in a way that really shines and is able to share that with others in very personal ways and in very inspirational ways and in very, very public ways through the book that she wrote, which is part of what we're talking about today. And so this is my understanding of Carrie. And Carrie, I will let you share more about the details that I missed in here. Welcome to our show. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Thank you. Well, I just want to acknowledge that you said something, not afraid to speak her truth. And 20 plus years ago, I never spoke my truth. I was kind of like a hedgehog that I just avoided. I called myself an ignorer. But it was only through life's trials that I was able to learn that's probably not the best way to live. And so now some people say, you just say it. And that's hard for some people because I try to speak my truth and I try to speak it in love.
Oh, and aren't those so important, right? Truth without love is harsh and cruel, and love without truth is equally cruel because it doesn't get us forward.
Yes.
Love that balance. Thank you, Carrie. Yeah. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about your book. You've published a book, which is a very public way to speak your truth. You have a book. Your book is called Finding Joy, Living an A+ Life in a C- World. Tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get to writing that book? What is your story to get to that point?
Yeah. So in 1999, my good life fell apart, and that's part of the story. I won't go into a lot of details, but I'll just say I thought I had a really good marriage. I would use good, thinking that it was the best it could be. And then one night, at midnight, after a really weird evening with my husband at a party, he came in as I was brushing my teeth and said, "I don't love you anymore. I'm leaving." And all I could think about was, how can you leave? We have a good marriage. Everyone says we have a good marriage. Nothing made, nothing made sense. And so it kind of, um, was a soccer punch because my whole reality was gone. What I thought would be my life was very different. And the journey through writing the book, now actually that first year I wanted to write a book to warn other women that if this could happen to me, it could happen to them. And I had a name, and I really wanted to write this book. It would have been a book of bitterness and anger. But my ex-husband was a writer, and I needed him to write the book. So I never thought that's probably not going to go over very well to say, could you write a book about what a loser you are? And so I put the idea away for 16 years. And I really feel that it was God inspired to write the book. And I really fought that resistance because I still had a fear that I'm not a writer and a belief that I was not a writer. And a lot of that was through my college experience of my English professor telling me that my writing was boring and I lacked creativity. And so you just get those beliefs that are put into your head. I mean, and that had been years, but I still believed it. But I felt called. I felt that I was supposed to do it and do it in a much different way about the lessons that I had learned, why my life fell apart, and that's why it's called How to Live in the second part is called How You Live an A+ Life in a C- World, because actually I was living a C- life, lying to myself that I was living an A life. I mean, I was deceiving myself because I didn't want to look.
Yeah. And the first part of the title is finding joy. And I love that
Yeah.
transformation that I've heard you talk about, Carrie, that the transformation from the initial version, the initial thought of that book on bitterness and a cautionary tale to something that is so different. And it's really about finding joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So as we look at this, I think about the listeners who might be listening today, and the people who listen to this are we got people in the workplace, and we've got people at home, and we've got so this book and the messages and the nuggets that are going to come out of this. Is this a book for women? Is this a book for people in marriages? Is this a book for people at work, at home, and in life? Who's the target audience for this message, Carrie?
Well, I think anybody could be the target audience, but I guess it probably resonates most with women. I've had women give it to their daughters who are graduating from high school or college, just to be. Uh, Sometimes we're just stuck in a train of thought and not in a comfort zone. Maybe that's a better way to put it. Not realizing that we have a lot of control over our lives
Mhm.
and where we go
Mhm.
if we are planning and challenging our thoughts.
Okay. So we're going to talk about a couple of nuggets that come out of this. And I heard you say that the book and maybe the target audience for the book is women, and maybe sometimes women give that to their daughters. The nuggets that we're going to look at here, or that we're going to talk about, would you say that these nuggets are more universal than that? Would these nuggets apply to anyone, anywhere, or are they specific to jobs, specific to career, specific to age group, specific to the Midwest? Where are they localized?
No, they're specific to anybody who wants to have more joy in their lives. I think that's most people because we just go through life. I used to describe my life like going through life on a treadmill or the hamster wheel, just wake up and push repeat each and every day. And it was all about climbing the success ladder and trying to do and be more and putting off stuff for someday. Like someday I'm going to do this, someday I'm going to do that. And some days don't happen unless you create what that someday looks like and when that someday will be. We all wear, and I have to watch myself even now to not put on this busy badge because our society, our world praises people who are busy. And busy means you're distracted. Busy means that you are not giving your best to probably the people you love the best
Yeah.
because you're busy. You said yes to this PTO thing. You said yes to this church thing. You said yes to your boss when you're screaming no. Like how am I going to fit that? How am I going to fit that in? I made a rule up many years ago that if I say yes to a committee, a church committee, a school committee, whatever it may be, I can only say yes if I can honestly say I will drive to it joyfully. I will not, because I would be like in my minivan, like, why? Oh my gosh, I hate this. Why did I say yes? And then be bitter while I'm in the meeting because other people didn't show up and I was just putting more work on me. So it's just being very intentional with our yeses, and it's also being very intentional with our nos. And you can only do that when you really know where you want your life to go and what you want your life to look like, and more importantly, what you want your life to feel like. So you have to have a vision.
Yeah, yes. Well, let's get into these nuggets because I think all of us want to find a little bit more joy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I think you shared in advance that one of the nuggets that we're going to talk about are these questions. You had some questions that changed
yeah,
your perspective. Let's unpack
yeah.
that a little bit.
So I tell the story differently in the book, but I had these two real questions that were asked to me probably within the first year and a half of my life completely falling apart. The first question was, I took the first week off of work, and I was blessed to work with a bunch of, I was in the social work field, so I worked with a bunch of therapists.
Mm.
And I was talking to a therapist the week after I came back and telling my victim story. And she looked at me and she said, Carrie, which part is your fault?
Mm.
Which really ticked me off. And I just remember, like, what part is my fault? Did you not hear my story? It was like unbelievable that she could be telling me that this was my fault. So I held back my tears and I hurried to my boss's office and I just said, I can't believe she just asked me this question. He was also a therapist. So I just said, I cannot believe she would say this to me. And he said, wow, pretty bad timing on her part. But Carrie, until you figure out what part was yours, you'll never, you'll fall into the same patterns. And I said, none of it was my fault. He walked out and he said, Carrie, what happened at the beginning and the middle, not just the end? What did you not see? What did you not hear? What were you missing?
Mm.
And so I had to take that question and really just sit with it and really dig deep to what was I missing? Because something led up to it that I completely missed. I was busy. The other question that happened was from a really good friend and coworker. And over lunch one day, she looked at me and she said, Hey, Carrie, what letter grade would you give your life? So for those that don't know, I live in a college community.
Mm.
Perhaps it was around the end of a semester. I don't remember that part, but she asked me what letter grade I would give my life. And instantly, and I mean instantly, the letter C popped into my head. And I remember, actually, let me take this back. This question was asked before my life fell apart.
Mm. Okay.
It was asked before my life fell apart, like a year before. And I said C, and I felt guilty saying it out loud. And I remember inside my head, I was saying, why would I say C? And I said, well, if I say C, what does that mean about my marriage? Good, okay, passing. What does that mean about me as a mom? What does that mean about me as a person? I'm just average. Seneca, I was never trying to be average. I wanted to be the one that stood out. Look at her. She is a go-getter. I wanted to be seen and heard and acknowledged and recognized as a good person.
Yeah.
I had this need. And so I tied that back in much later after I left and processing my life, that I think that was a warning from God. Carrie, you just said your life was a C. And what I did about it at that time was ask my friend the question, friend, what letter would you give your grade? What letter grade would you give your life? And she also said C.
Mm.
So with a research study done of two people, we both just said it's a phase. And Seneca, what do you do with the phase?
You hope it passes,
It will pass.
right?
So I did nothing.
Nothing.
And I think that was where I really missed the boat because I should have paused to say, I don't want to have a C life. But I blamed it on where my life was at. I just blamed it at the kid's age, the amount of money in the bank, that someday, there's that someday, life would be different and it wouldn't be a C. So those are my two powerful questions that I think everybody should just pause and it doesn't matter. It could be a simple fight with your spouse. It could be with your kid. It could be with a coworker. What part was your fault? We contribute somehow. We're contributors to a problem.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. So, and the phrasing of it leaves no question. It's not, was any of this your fault? It's some of it was your fault. So which part? Which
Yeah.
part are you going to take accountability for? Which part was your fault? And that implies to the next question. So what are you going to do about it? Right. So how are you going to take accountability and how are you going to do something different? And that question, what letter grade do you give your life? Man, I got kind of goosebumps as I was listening to your story there. What would I have said? And then in your question, well, what do we do with it? It's a phase, and well, we just let it go. Well, it'll pass. Will it pass? Do I want it to pass? Do I want to dig in and do something different?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, Carrie, that's so powerful. So
Yeah.
powerful. My goodness. All right. So I see why I see why these are so powerful. Okay. So you came into this saying you had two nuggets for us. So one of them were these two questions that changed your perspective, that opened up your mind. I see this. So you've got another nugget for us though, and I can see how this would be valuable for anyone. So you alluded to it a little bit earlier, and so let's get back to that. This idea of a vision. So talk to us about having a vision for yourself. What do you mean by this?
So what I believe is that we all need a life vision. And if it's, I kind of compare it to any business has a vision plan, right? You go away, you get together with the team, the head people, and you plan where the business is going to be 5, 10, 15 years, and then you work it backwards. So here's where you want to be in 5 years. And then what do I need to do this year? What do I need to do this month, this week, today? And so it's sitting down with yourself as the CEO and figuring out, where do I want my life to be? What do I want my life to look like? And so where do I want to be in 5 years? And I actually started to do that somewhat. I didn't label it a life vision when I started this process, but where did I want my life to be as a single mom? How did I want to show up to my kids? Because I needed to be strength. I needed to be the solid parent, because at the time, their dad was not the solid parent. He was going through his own struggle. So I couldn't I couldn't. And so I had to step up. And how am I going to step up? And how am I going to do this? And where do I want my life to be and to look like and to feel like? What am I going to do with my finances and my health, in my other relationships? And so it was just a very fun way to look at your life and to say, do I ever want to be in another relationship? And how will that look? And God just completely showed up in this visioning and helping and guiding me through this whole thing. But it was just a lot of fun when you put your life down. And has it all come to fruition? A lot of it has. But more importantly, what I've learned is that the joy is not about the dollars. I wrote my vision down. I wrote my vision down for what I wanted my faith journey to look like, my relationships with my whole family, what I wanted my health to look like, what I wanted my finances to look like, and my career. And I made myself very vulnerable by sharing it with my family and my parents. And that's nice, Carrie. But when you put it out there, when you make yourself vulnerable, I'm going to live it out. So it made me responsible for really staying focused on my vision to have it come to fruition. But there's a lot of things in the vision when we desire something, there's a lot of obstacles that get in the way, like our thoughts, our thinking, lack of gratitude
Mhm.
gets in the way. And then it's just planning. Life is not perfect. So when I
No.
know I'm going to have an obstacle, how am I going to get around it? We're all going to have roadblocks, right? We all will have roadblocks, but planning how you're going to respond to those roadblocks.
Wow. So sometimes when you say vision, many of us will jump right to the old activity of the creative vision board and cut out pictures out of a magazine. And there's something there. There's value there. There's value in creating an image, creating a mental picture, and then a physical, tangible, tactile picture of where you're going. But you're doing something else.
Mm.
This is something more concrete. This is something a little bit deeper. Um,
Yeah.
Contrast that for me. Yeah, take this.
Yeah. Initially, I was all for vision boards. I have a vision board,
Sure.
but a vision board is in one single place. And so I think I've had so many clients that said, "Oh, yeah, I have a vision." It's like, where's it at? They
Yeah.
don't have a clue where their vision's at, or their vision board's been put away. And so during COVID, I just had this aha or this download that we have our hands and we take our hands everywhere with us. And our vision should be as close as our hand.
Mm.
And so every finger should have a part of your vision. And so, like, my faith is on my thumb, my relationships are on a finger, my health is on a finger, my finances and my career. And the secret sauce, I think, all of it is understanding what your life why is. Like the
Oh,
Simon Sinek why, know your
yep,
why, know your why.
yep.
I think your why should connect. So it's not just like visioning, like, I want this beautiful home, I want this job, I want my children to be perfect, I want the toilet lid to be, put down. I want the toothpaste lid to be on.
Oh,
It's different than that. And to me, a huge part of any relationships is in this whole thing is just learning how to live in gratitude.
mm.
Boy, we live in a dark world where it's so easy to go down a path. And I can get myself down that path until I remember like what my why is to pull me back. And is that really the conversation I want to have with that person I love? Because I want this for our relationships. And
Oh.
that does that really honor our, my faith walk? So it's just connecting your vision to a life why. And I just think it pulls it all together because honestly, I take my hand everywhere with me.
It's
And
hard
so do
not
most
to.
people.
Oh, isn't that beautiful? Carrie, thank you. This is so lovely and applicable for so many of us. If you were to take these ideas, so you've given us two really useful nuggets. So one are these two questions to wrestle with that really open up our minds, and the second is having a vision for ourselves, and that helps us that we take with us, that we don't just leave behind. If we were to take this and wrap it up, take this conversation about finding joy and living an A+ life in a C- world, and wrap it up and put a bow on it, what messages, what thought would you use to put a bow on this conversation?
Mm. I think that your life vision is a work in progress and to not be afraid to revise it and to update it and to question it,
Mm,
to listen to what you're saying to yourself and is it in alignment with your vision. We are very hard on ourselves in our own thinking and our thoughts.
truth.
Um, we can oftentimes deceive ourselves, just like I deceived myself. And what I learned about myself is that I was ignored. I made up a word, ignorer. I simply ignored. I didn't ignore it at work, but in my home, I wanted peace.
Mm.
I wanted my home to be a place of peace. So I just ignored all problems,
Oh, yeah.
which made peaceful evenings,
Sure.
but chaos in the end because I didn't deal with it. And that's when you said, don't be afraid to speak truth. That's what I learned. Don't be afraid to speak truth.
Yeah.
So don't ignore things, speak them and speak them in love, but be your best advocate.
And you do that beautifully. Yeah, thank you. So, Carrie, if our listeners wanted to find you or reach out to you or get a copy of your book, obviously they can reach out to us and we will happily connect you. How else can they find you? What's the best way for them to reach you?
So my website is www.loveyourlife, the number two, .com. So loveyourlife, the number two.com.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. So this would not be the Even Better podcast if I didn't ask my trademark question. What's making you even better these days?
You know, this year I've been through a process of learning how to, God's been telling me to be still, probably for 4 or 5 years, but I'm always trying to plan. In fact, I even said I'm the CEO of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So what's making me even better is I've surrendered that. And so God is my CEO. And what I have learned when less is more. So I don't have to be and do 5 things when I can do 2 things outstanding. And so to focus on, just less is more. And I've just been so blessed with more peace in my life when I actually live that out.
Lovely. Lovely. Thank you for that. Carrie, thank you so much.
Sinikka.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time today. This has been such a joy.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, thanks so much for tuning in. We are so glad you were here today. Thanks for spending time with us. And on behalf of all of us here at Your Clear Next Step, we hope the rest of your day is even better.
Thank you for tuning in today. The Even Better podcast will be back with more content soon. But in the meantime, subscribe to our podcast or check out our website at yourclearnextstep.com for more information. See you next episode.